webinar. Today's webinar is hosted by the IASSIDD Special Interest Group on Inclusive Research. My name is Sophie Sergeant. Would you please I will unmute myself. My name is Sophie Sergeant, and I'm proud to be your moderator today. It is a great honor to welcome you here today. Thank you for your time, for your presentations to come, and for your questions today, for your active contribution in the world of inclusive research. We are all looking forward to hearing more on knowledge and experiences about inclusive research around the world. Because I want to give maximum time to all presenters and to the discussion, I will keep the introductions short and sharp. I want to invite all presenters to speak slowly, but also to keep the presentations within time for us to have sufficient time for discussion after the presentations. May I now introduce you to the co-chairs of our SIRG on inclusive research, Fionn Crombie-Angus and Amanda Roosdorf. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's joined us today from all over the world. And we're absolutely delighted to share this afternoon with you. I'm not going to say very much, but just to ask everybody to please keep your speaker and your microphone, not your speaker to hear, but your microphone to speak. If you could please put that on mute during the presentations. Sophie will give the cue for when it's time to ask questions for each presentation. And other than that, just to remind everybody that this session is being recorded. It will be made available on our YouTube channel after the session, and please enjoy the day. I'll hand over to Fionn.
Hello, my name is Fionn Crombie-Angus, and I am the co-chair of the Inclusive Research Special Interest Research Group, and I want to thank you all for coming. This is the first event we have hosted since the launch. My friend Sophie is going to lead this roundtable with lots of help from the rest of us. So I'll leave you to her capable hands.
Thank you, Fionn, and thank you, Amanda. Here is the agenda for today's roundtable. As you see, we have received a huge amount of presentations. Many people want to share their research work today, and that is great news, because that means a lot is going on in the field. We invite you not to put your questions in the chat, because that could be distracting for the presenters and the listeners. Please write down your questions for yourself on a paper or on your computer, and after the presentations, we hope to have enough time for all your questions and comments for the discussion. And because inclusive research work always involves listening carefully, we start with a musical creation experience led by Fionn Crombie-Angus and Jonathan Angus. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Sophie. Before we start, we have one picture to share with you. And Fionn, you're a researcher, mostly a social researcher.
Yes.
But you're also a natural researcher.
I am, yes.
And do you like to be in forests?
Yes, I do. I, I, I love traveling to forests far and wide.
Yes, we've been to different kinds of forests on 5 continents.
Yes,
And this picture was taken on our, I'll call it our first visit to the Amazon
yes,
rainforest, because
because it is.
we hope to go again. And that was taken just after you played your fiddle for the people there.
That's right.
And we're going to invite everyone to play music with us, but not with traditional instruments, just with anything you have at hand that we can make a bit of sound together with. And Sophie, you can stop sharing the screen there. Hopefully you got a chance to watch the little video, but don't worry if you didn't. You can really just add your sounds any which way, little sounds like that, or any sort of thing that you want. Just, we're not individually going to make a lot of noise. We're going to collectively make a lovely, strong hum all together, a thrum. And so do rain showers come on all at once?
Not usually, but sometimes they they do gradually build up over time.
Yes, that's what we're going to do with our rainstorm. We're going to have a gradual build up. Now, the forest is very rarely silent, but it can be very still at different times of the day. So the forest that we're inviting you to come to create with us really, is one before the storm. There's a great deal of stillness. And then as we tune in with our listening, we hear the sounds that are there, but they're very gentle, small sounds, and we can all contribute little bits. And over time, we can feel the storm begin to build, but gradually, until eventually it reaches a crescendo of a strong storm, not an out of control raging one, but one that has a lot going on and some intensity. And then, of course, the storm begins to fade away, just as it came in. And it's quite a, it's a little bit scary what we're doing together. It takes a bit of courage from all of us, because we don't really know how, there's no one conducting. We are just listening to each other to know, well, when are we going bigger, and how quickly are we going bigger, and when do we turn the corner or turn from the peak down to the, and when do we go to the end where there's no more, where there's complete stillness again? Well, we're going to find that out together. So so we'll start with a little bit of sound, and it might get I wouldn't say noisy, so I'm asking that everyone keep in mind not to get lost in it and start banging pots and pans. But even if it's not too much sound, it might be too much for some. So as Amanda mentioned in the chat, if you prefer to mute and just watch, or even to go to the well, take a couple of minutes to yourself, you can do that. We'll be finishing this out in 2 minutes or so. So anything more to say?
Yeah. You got ABT.
We all can come off mute, but we'll try to, it isn't talking. We'll try to be quiet, and we'll start with a quietness before we start in. Ready?
Yeah, that was back there, do you know what I mean? So that's okay. Okay. No, just come to the whole.
Thank you, dear Fionn and Jonathan. Would you like something to say to this?
Well, I love the atmosphere that we set for everyone.
That we all created together, and
Yeah.
hopefully now we're in a place where our ears have opened up to what's around us, and we're able to hear and to share together. Thank you.
Thank you for connecting us through music and sound. We are thousands of kilometers distant from each other, and I think it's important to have this moment before we start. Thank you for this. Our first presentation today is by Rob Hopkins and his colleagues, based on the Inclusive Research Manifesto they created together. The document you all have received in advance through email. Joe, Brian, Gur, Orla, Pauline, Lisa, Mary, and Rob, I leave you the floor.
Hi, my name is Pauline Steer. I'm a member of Clare Inclusive Research Group. Together with my colleagues, we are going to present our manifesto for inclusive research. We came up with these ideas after writing 2 articles. One was Number 1, inclusive research should improve the quality of our lives and the society we live in.
Number 2, inclusive research should be about our issues and make sense to us.
Number 3, the research showed recent out experiences and is about what happened for us. Number 4, it should support our campaign for relationships, jobs, independent living, life, choice, etc. Number 5, researchers should stand together in partnership, support us, academics, and healthcare researchers.
Number 6, inclusive research should be clear about ethics. Why is the research being done? Who is doing it? How will it be done? Where will the findings be shown? People need to know before they take part.
Number 7, everybody's expertise and experience should be valued. Everyone has an important part to play.
Number 8, there's no room for tokenism in inclusive research. We're not here for the ride. We want to help and to drive.
Number 9, inclusive researchers respect, encourage, and celebrate the work we do.
Number 10, we think outside the box, explore different views and ideas.
Number 11, we want to be flexible. We're prepared to challenge and change our ideas and the ways we do our research to get the best results.
Number 12, inclusive research can be fun and funky and eye-catching.
Number 13, we can do our research in new and exciting ways about lots of different things, such as our views on climate change, the history of disability, sharing our coping skills for mental health.
Manifesto for inclusive research, the process, guidelines for how the work should be done.
Number 1, challenge the gatekeepers. Everyone can take part. We need to respect service managers, but also respect people and give them the chance to take part.
Number 2, give each person the time to input in the style that suits them. Speaking, signing, writing, pointing to pictures. Create small groups or one-to-one interviews so everyone feels comfortable taking part.
Number 3, use open questions. Don't put words in people's mouths. Ask questions like, tell us about, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like.
Number 4, track the changes. Follow up research and recommendations. Who do we need to tell? What changes are people asking for? A study can be a powerful tool.
Thank you for watching and listening. These are just our ideas about good research. There should be nothing about us without us. So tell us what you think. We welcome any comments and suggestions.
Thank you for this inspiring document and for your very clear presentation. I wonder if some of the researchers of this group would like to take the word to add something to the presentation.
Sophie, I can see that Jan Walmsley, welcome. Jan has their hand up.
Oh, thank you. I could not see that. Thank you very much. Jan, please.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me here. And well, I thought that was fantastic, the manifesto, really good. I wanted to say that Learning Disability England have also been working on principles for inclusive research. And I think we might get together and look to see if we could produce one document rather than having lots of different ones. Thank you.
Do I just jump in there? This is Rob Hopkins from the Inclusive Research Group. I can see Pauline and Mary Madigan and some of our other researchers there, Brian, I think all is there. But exactly what you're saying there, Jan, we said this is a discussion paper or whatever, just to throw the idea out and then see what people think and be prepared to be surprised by what other people think are important priorities having done this work.
I'll get together with you after the meeting, Rob, and show you what Learning Disability England have produced. It doesn't fight what you've done. It just starts in a slightly different place. So I think it would be really good to put them together.
That's good.
Thank you. I'm just going, I lost my screen, so I don't know how to see it again. Oops, stop sharing and hopefully it will work now.
I can see your presentation, Sophie.
Yeah, I know, but I can't. So, sorry for that. Just 1 second. I don't know why it disappears. So I will do something else. So like this.
Do you want me to try and share?
Yes, please do. It's the second one. It would help me a lot.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Do you just want to stop sharing your screen, Sophie?
Yes. I don't know why it suddenly blocks. All right. Thank you for that. This is great. I think I have too much open, but I will now take mine. Okay, I will take my papers. That will help too. All right. Sorry for this interruption. I would have loved today to present with my Dutch colleague, Harriet Zandvoort, the colleague I have worked with for more than 5 years, because she could not make it today to be here online with us. I have prepared the presentation in advance with her. She asked if I could read her words because English for her is a struggle. So before I start, I want to introduce us first. My name is Sophie Sergeant. I work for the Dutch University of Applied Sciences in Utrecht as a senior researcher and lecturer on citizenship and inclusion. I'm originally Belgian, and at this moment I'm staying in Belgium. I thank the inclusive organization on the next slide, Connecting Ghent, for supporting me in moderating this webinar in their studio. So if you could forward the next slide, please. Thank you very much. And then also the next one. So Harriet Zandvoort and I worked together in a research project naming Working Together, Learning Together. In this project, we could observe and get to know 10 different inclusive research projects in the Netherlands. And on the road, we developed a training and coaching package for inclusive research teams. We named the training Cabrio Training. Based upon this work, I had the opportunity to write my PhD dissertation. And thanks to the work of the Dutch inclusive multimedia team of Plurijn, we can present a film created after the PhD work was finished in order for more people to grasp the meaning of our research work. I will share now a short piece of this film. And if you're interested, the film is on YouTube. It's Dutch spoken with English subtitles. So if you play on the film, it should run. It doesn't.
No, unfortunately, it's not playing, Sophie.
And I will share it. So then I will quickly go to the film. Sorry for that. So, and then it should play. It's not working. That's it.
I will share the link in the chat with everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Then we go further in with the presentation. Harriet says about inclusive research. In cooperation, we meet. I discover your talents. You discover mine. I learn to know your talents. You learn to know mine. If it's possible for you to share the presentation, thank you. I learn about your abilities and disabilities. You learn about mine. I learn to respect you. You learn to respect me. It is very important to me that I know I can trust you. I need to feel safe and secure. Within the safetiness, we need to be able to give and receive feedback. I want you to be honest with me in a respectful way, and I will be honest with you in a respectful way. We want to bring change in how people think about people with disabilities. We want to give people with disabilities a voice and a more leading position in research, in working, in contributing, in living. We work hard, and sometimes we are on the same wavelength. Sometimes we struggle, and that's okay. Finally, our joint message is we try to collaborate, and that's interesting, sometimes difficult, and always far away from the petty discourse. If you are interested in the training we develop, please take a look at our eye-catching, funky, to quote Pauline, funky website, or send us an email. Let me know, now introduce you to our next speaker. From the Netherlands, we go all the way to Chicago, USA. And I hope to pronounce your name correctly, Raquel Wanyagua, or Rachel, I'm not sure. Please unmute yourself and feel free.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Wanjagua, so you had it right. And I am a Kenyan, but currently in the US pursuing a PhD in disability studies at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I'm very pleased to be here with all of you this morning to share from my experience and to learn and hear from each one of you. I will give a short presentation about the challenges, the challenges that I have been facing and thinking about when I am designing a research study to conduct in Kenya with people with intellectual disabilities while I am in the US, given that we are speaking about inclusive research. So of course, one of my challenges has been that I am not involving people with intellectual disabilities at the moment. And excuse me, as I explained through my presentation, I will continue speaking from the thoughts that have been arising when I'm thinking about inclusive research. So I am a physiotherapist by training. I worked in Kenya, mostly in remote rural areas for 15 years after completing my physiotherapy training. And it was mostly with people, children and youth with any form of disability. And in Kenya, I would like to tell you that in such places where it is remote, you hardly find rehabilitation personnel or healthcare workers. So it was a privilege for me, but it was also a great learning experience for me working in this setting and with the people families and people with disabilities that I interacted with. But I also believe that they benefited and gained a lot from me through trainings, and we had to work things out together to just understand how to face the challenges that we were facing. I have also lived in large communities where people with and people without intellectual disabilities share life together. For 8 years in Kenya, 2 years in Canada, and now in the US, I am living in a large community here in Chicago. So I do pride myself in probably having a wide range of experience living and probably being influenced a lot by the life I have been living with people with intellectual disabilities. My research interest, of course, has always been influenced by this experience, both from the learnings in Kenya, where, of course, initially as I started as a physiotherapist, it was more of a very medical model approach, where it was about rehabilitation and what are the challenges and what is wrong and how can we fix it. And that was how I approached my training. But as I started to live and share life with people with intellectual disabilities, the realization, and sometimes people would get angry at me when I asked them about, when my focus was on how do I improve your functioning. And I would be told that's not what that's not all my life is about. And so I had to start recalibrating and thinking, even though I have this expertise as a physiotherapist, something else is missing. Something else is always eliciting the discomfort, the conflict between me and the people whom I am devoting to be with, I enjoy sharing my life with. So I was able to start thinking about how I decided to go and take a master's in disability studies at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. And that is when the social construct, or a different way of thinking about disability was introduced to me. And I started understanding that there is a way of representation that makes us always think from a deficit or a limitations perspective when you are working with people with intellectual disabilities. And I also started understanding that there is, which is also something I have discovered right now, that when working with intellectual disabilities, I don't think and I don't feel that to date there is a way of knowing. There is a conflict between my lived experience and how I have lived and seen who people with intellectual disabilities are. But in the academic sphere, I don't feel like this has adequately been captured. And so if we don't have ways of knowing who people with intellectual disabilities are, how they understand themselves in life, and only use classifications and descriptions that are mostly based, I will call it ableist ideologies, meaning that all are ways of thinking only from the perspective of the majority. It has been challenging because the way I think about people with the undiscovered and unmentioned ways of not just cognition, but also being, then that is how my study, my methodology, the way I will think about involving and including them, the way I will think about without thinking about my domination or being the powerful or dominant voice that is shaping the study, always comes to the drawing board, always gets me back to the question of who really do we say are people with intellectual disabilities? What is their identity? What have they said? Who have they said they are? And of course, you do not find them in an academic space or having PhDs like me, so they do not get the opportunity to produce knowledge about themselves. I personally have been struggling at this design stage to think and how I will have to convince my IRB here in Chicago and in Kenya that I do want people with intellectual disabilities. I believe they are able to conduct and be the authority behind the kind of knowledge that will be produced about them, so that I know it is a big thing to start making claims that there should be, or my study can be about coming up with an intellectual disability epistemology or way of knowing intellectual disability, because I also am limited. My only training is in physiotherapy and now disability studies, but I know it is beyond the scope of what my knowledge is. I know it's about philosophy, so it's about all other fields that can come together to think with people with intellectual disabilities, and probably even not think about it as intellectual disability, because that is a selection of just a few constructs about cognition, which my experience, again, as I said, says and shows me that there are undiscovered, unmentioned ways of being that people who are always categorized as intellectual disabilities have not been acknowledged and mentioned. And so it never informs discourse or the way knowledge is produced about intellectual disabilities. If in the future we come to that point, then even inclusive research will be an easy way of thinking and doing, because it doesn't have to be the conventional way. Maybe the methods that we use will be challenged by a new way of thinking, because we shall have known a different way and welcomed the form of diversity intellectual disability brings in our society as an okay way to be and acknowledged. And so I thank you, and I hope that you can join me. And for sure, I am here because people are saying people with intellectual disabilities are saying this should be about us. Whatever we say should matter to them. But that is the only way I think about the justice, the epistemic justice towards them. Thank you.
Thank you for addressing ableism in the academic world and in society, for bringing this theme in today. Inclusive research is also about making lives better, and that's the entrance of the presentation of Liz Tilley from the UK Building Bridges Research Project. Please, Liz and colleagues, we are all yours. Jan, you want to say something?
Liz had to go to the dental hospital and she asked me to support building bridges, but I hadn't met the presentation before. So where are you, building bridges people? Because we need you here.
In the office.
In the office.
In the office? Well, yeah, I can't see you on the screen. Okay.
Well, I don't have to put it on.
You don't have to put it on.
I don't have to put it on. This is...
Are you okay to go ahead with this presentation?
Yeah.
Great. I'll be quiet then.
I'm just listening.
Yeah. There you go.
Building Bridges team, can you see your presentation on the screen?
We need
yeah.
Okay. Okay, you can go ahead.
We need the first slide, please. So, who are we? We are 8 people with disabilities who do not get support from their disability services. We are unemployed, we live in the Black Country, we have lots of shared experiences, and we all sport football teams. What is research and who should do it? What qualifies someone to be a researcher?
We think it's us. We know what is important. What are the problems we have in daily living? What the could be?
Solutions could be. On the next slide, please. The mental mode of disability. What's wrong with what's describing? Some people think we are the problem, but we think it's how services are delivered and how some people treat us. And
we do research using the
social
disability.
model of disability. To start with our personal experiences in low-income budgeting problems and debt, poor social and sport network. That's that one. Poor neighbourhood living with antisocial behaviour, lack of transport, health problems, self-esteem, poor confidence. Poor local services relationship problems, lack of motor sport, contributed to continued problems. Then vulnerability, social isolation, issue of communication, literacy, digital exclusion, and difficulty with staffing frontline services and experience of bullying. That's it. Next slide, please. And the stages of research we do. Decide on topic and develop aims, choose how to get information, take the data, analyze the data, make sense of findings, write it up, and disseminate all people to influence change. Yes, please.
Each person brings their own understanding to build up their picture.
That's it. Having a voice, research gives us a chance to have a voice and say what we think is important.
We end our messages of things that should change. We get too many letters we can't read. We should be given easy read information. Next.
Ethnic issues, ownership, who owns the research, people have the right to tell their stories and knowledge as authors of own work, understanding more about rights and not getting them.
We love telling people what about research, but we have missed going to something educative.
Is there any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you very much to the Building Bridges group, and my apologies for the slides moving before you were ready for them to move. There was some automatic movement of the slides, but thank you so much. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sometimes we need to build the bridge while walking on it. And maybe our next speaker, Nikola Grove, will also share on that. And also, Yes, the PowerPoint is there. So please, Nikola, feel free to share us on your research.
Yes, lovely. Thank you so much. So this work has been done with the Social History of Learning Disability Group, in particular Jan Walmsley, whom I'm really grateful to, and Gertrude Kremsner, and the funding was provided from the OU and the University of Leipzig. The work actually started when I was at a conference some years ago and realized how much academics were talking about the theories, the big ideas that had informed their work. But the co-researchers with learning disabilities were not taking part in these discussions. They didn't get to hear about theory. In fact, one quite prominent academic, when I raised this, said, oh, well, I don't know, why would people with learning disabilities need to know about theory? So with Gertrude, we ran a couple of little workshops in London looking at the thoughts of Michel Foucault and Gilles Deleuze. These are critical theorists. Their ideas are very difficult, but actually the point about a good idea, a really important theory, is that you should be able to explain it simply to everybody. It should make sense. So over the last 2 years, we've run 6 workshops with about 20 to 30 people. Next slide. So the point about knowing about theory is that these are what we use to both get ideas about research, but also to understand the things that we're observing in research. So people with learning disabilities can understand and use these ideas. They can enjoy exploring those ideas, learn about history and culture, but also their feedback, how they interpret those ideas, really develops that theory. It's very, very important. And there's a really big learning point, we think, for researchers who don't have learning disabilities, that we all learn together. So we ran 6 of these workshops. We had the social model of disability with Tom Shakespeare, ideas from Paulo Freire from Savoie and Hilary Vignard at Southampton University. So that was all about Paulo Freire's work in Brazil, saying knowledge is something that is co-produced. We learn from one another. We had a lot of fun with Gayatri Spivak, who is a feminist who looks at who is allowed to speak. Jan Walmsley talked us through Wolfenberger's ideas about being normal and normalization and some of the traps associated with that. We had a very, very stimulating and challenging session on eugenics in the 21st century, which is the belief that actually you should only breed, people should only be allowed to have children if they are going to be fit and meet our standards of who we think is acceptable in society. And even now, it's very, very topical because there is so much talk about genetic modification and abortion of people with disabilities. So that was very challenging. And we had the last one this morning, which was about Karl Marx's ideas about how having a large group of people who want to work, the reserve army of labour, keeps lots of people in poverty, including people with learning disabilities. The way we ran these is that we found people who really knew what they were talking about. And then that information was translated into easy read packs, which we sent out beforehand with lots of pictures and photo symbols. And there was always a game or an activity that translated the idea into something practical. I don't know if Jan is able. We did do a short video, but I'm not sure if Jan is able to show it. But are you, Jan?
If I can share the screen and if I'm very clever.
So there should be a little video from our last workshop this morning about what people felt about the workshop, because we would have loved to have presented this presentation.
When we book these meetings in, Jan, although we
Okay. Are you seeing that? No.
Jan, I've made you a co-host, so you should be able
Yes.
to share now.
Okay, here's the Zoom meeting. Right, let me get into that. Now share screen. Here we go. Yes, it looks as if I'm going to manage it. Except it's paused. Oh, I'm screen sharing and I've now got to make it play. That's my challenge. And it's gone into the wrong place. Will it play for me? No, I don't know why I've failed. I can't see how to make it play.
Well,
can anybody?
Maybe.
It's there, but I can't see how to make it, persuade it to speak to me.
Maybe is it an idea to show it after the break? Then we have some time to fix it.
What a good idea. Yes.
And
then
you
sharing.
and then please send it to me via mail, and then I will try to share it.
I can only do it. It's so big. I can't share it with mail. Sophie, I'm afraid I can only share it as a Dropbox link, if that's any help.
WeTransfer is great.
Yeah, that's Dropbox is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Nikola, would you like to add some last words or
well, just to say, just in case the video doesn't play, that we were we've been stunned, I think, by the response of people. We've had such deep and valuable discussions, and what we are hoping to do is to find some more funding so that we can make the toolkits that we've developed, we can develop them a bit further with some inclusive researchers, and then make those available for free to groups of self-advocates and researchers. So if anybody would like to join us with this, or knows of a fund so that we can really get the toolkits really good with discussion points and so on, we would absolutely love to hear from you. And a big thank you to all the people who took part and to our presenters.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikola. I hope to see the film after the break, and we will also come back to this in the discussion, I hope. Because the timing was impossible for Lieke van Heumen and Courtney Kruger, both researchers, they sent us their pre-recorded presentation. And because we run out of time, I would suggest to send this presentation in the mail after this webinar to you, that you can all enjoy listening to their presentation. And I would prefer to go to our next presenter. Emma Reardon from the UK brings in her story titled "Looking for Answers in All the Wrong Places." This title really tickles me, so I am very curious for your presentation, Emma.
Hi, shall I share my screen or will you share my presentation from where you are?
We have the presentation.
There we are. I'm happy to stay on camera first. So hi, I'm Emma. So I'm a researcher with lived experience of autism, ADHD, dyslexia and dyspraxia, and I'm doing PhD research. And part of my background, reading, undertaking this research, uncovered that most of the research about autism in the UK looks at the biology, the causes and the treatment of autism. So like the presenter said just now about looking at genetics, much of the research is focusing on that. But actually, when autistic people and the people that support them and the professionals that worked with them were asked what they felt were the most important research topics about autism, their priorities were about things like mental health, better opportunities in work and education and housing, and getting better support. So that's why I called my talk Looking for Answers in All the Wrong Places. And I believe that we need to include autistic people and the people that know them best when we're deciding what to research and when we're designing, undertaking and evaluating that research. So I'm happy to go to my first picture slide now, if that's okay. So yeah, we can skip on from this one. Okay. So in exploring how to make my research accessible, I'll be using the networks that I already have. And I'm involved in several social media networks with people and professional networks as well. And making my research inclusive involves me making sure that I'm asking the right questions in the right way to the right people. And some of that fits in quite nicely with the manifesto that we looked at earlier on. And I described autism research as looking for answers in all the wrong places, because very often it's looking inside of autistic people to find out what is wrong or different about us, rather than listening to us and then looking outwards into society to see what could be done to make things better. So the building bridges slide was fantastic about the medical model, what's wrong with you, and then they showed the same person, you know, finding out what can be done to make things more accessible for you. Now, yeah, we'll move to the next slide, please. Okay, so I've worked alongside people for nearly 30 years who use a whole range of communication methods, and I'm keen to make sure that I don't exclude people who don't communicate like me. So I communicate through talking, through writing, but this isn't how everybody communicates. Now I've got some skills. I've used PECS, I've used Makaton, I've used Sign-Along, and I've worked with lots and lots of people who have their own ways of communicating as well. So they might use their gestures or the way they use their voice or the way they use their body language. And so my ability to communicate accurately with people will mean I need to make relationships with those people. I need to get to know them, and I need to get to know the other people that know them really well too. And an area of inclusivity that's sometimes overlooked is one of the cultural differences, that's what I'd like to call it, between autistic people and non-autistic people. So I'm an autistic person, and the way that I use language, my tone of voice, my eye contact and my gestures might be different to those of non-autistic people. And if they interpreted the way I act through the way that they act, they might misunderstand me. You know, and I could be missing, my intentions could be misinterpreted. And this is something that I've experienced personally, and it can feel very invalidating and very frustrating. But it's also a reminder to me as well that all of us have different needs, and we've got different strengths, and we've got different ways of communicating. And this means that when I'm considering reasonable adjustments that will support a diverse range of people to be involved in my research, I need to value every single person's way of being in the world, and involve those people and the people that know them best. And an area, yeah, next slide, please. So inclusivity, though, isn't just about accessibility. There are groups of people who faced a lifetime of unequal treatment, or who've experienced discrimination, stigma and misunderstanding of their own or their loved ones' needs. And these people may well be traumatized. They've had really bad experiences. So inviting these people along to be involved in my research needs to ensure that once they're involved, they actually feel safe. Simply making accessible formats or giving people easy reads or asking them their opinion isn't enough. People who aren't used to having a say in their daily lives will need a lot of support and understanding so that they're empowered to take part. Otherwise, our actions as researchers would just be tokenistic. there's no point inviting people along, but they feel so unsafe that they don't feel that their voice will be listened to or understood. So I'm just starting out on my research journey, and it's really important to me that I get it right. And I hope by events like today, by connecting with other people, you know, I can learn. You know, I've already learned from reading the manifesto. I'm looking forward to reading some other things. And it'll be fantastic to be part of a movement, really, to make research truly inclusive and not just about people, but for people as well. That's my research. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Your title was promising, and so is your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
And your IASSIDD project. Looking forward to hear more about it. Thanks. Now we go back to the Netherlands, to the colleagues at the Free University of Amsterdam. Evelyn, Suzanne, Mark, Leroy will share on their work on co-creation and collaboration in their inclusive research group. Who is there and who will speak? I'm very curious.
Thank you. I couldn't unmute myself, so I was waving. Yeah, thank you, Sophie, for inviting us. I'm here, and maybe you can also show the first slide, and you can meet us all. Yeah, thank you. So meet Mark, Yvonne, Leroy, and I, of course. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances, we are here with two today. So it's me and Leroy. Leroy asked me to introduce him, but maybe Leroy, you can please say hi to everyone to show that you are here. I will translate it. Yeah, there is Leroy. Leroy is here, and I will come back to him soon. So Leroy is an expert by experience at Ons Tweede Thuis. That's a care organization in the Netherlands. But most of all, he's a co-researcher in our research group at the VU University of Amsterdam. I'm Suzanne. I'm a PhD researcher at the VU University of Amsterdam, and I'm involved in the co-researchers and researchers group. Mark and Yvonne are as well experts by experience and co-researchers in our group. Mark is involved nearly from the beginning, and Yvonne was starting like 1.5 years later, and Leroy is involved since 2020 approximately. And we prepared this talk also with Mark, assuming that Mark could attend the meeting. However, he became ill and couldn't make it. So I will tell the things he wanted to tell, and you have to imagine Mark telling these things. Yeah, then we can go to the next slide. And that's a little video. Mark and Yvonne are telling about their involvement as co-researchers. So I hope it will work. Is there also sound? Did you share your sound with?
There is sound, but I can hear it, but I can hear that you are not able to hear it.
Indeed.
Give me 1 second. Can you hear it now?
No, not yet.
Not yet. No.
No.
If it won't work, we can also continue, and then the participant can watch the video later on. It's also no problem.
All right, I'll pause it there.
Okay, that's okay. But in this little video, they tell about their involvement in the research on the series game UNI. So if you're interested, and the slides will be shared, you can watch the video back. Okay, then we can go on to the next slide, I think so. because the project on the series game is nearly finished. And Mark and Yvonne and Leroy recently also helped in other projects. And the first one is the VR project, the virtual reality project on mentalizing. And Mark was involved on that project. He wanted to tell about this project, but I will do for him. The VR project is about improving mentalizing for professionals in care organizations. And Mark was the example of the avatar in the VR project, the clients who experience the things. He is also the voice of the avatar that professionals hear when they start working with the VR. So I asked him how was the VR environment developed then. And he told me that the VR was built up in scenarios that professionals can practice with. And in collaboration of co-researchers and researchers, they together came up with the scenario. So they developed the scenarios together. And professionals can then in the VR experience respond to these scenarios. And they give an answer, and the VR continues based on that answer. And that answer could be right, wrong, or questionable. And the avatar then gives a response on that answers. And all those different combinations, because there are much questions asked in these VR, they should be recorded. So Mark told us that they did like days to record all those scenarios. It was fun to do, as he said. Paula Sterkenburg, one of our researchers, came to Mark's home to record all the scenarios. So it wasn't a big project, but it was lovely to do. Can you click to the next slide for me? Here you see the screenshot of the VR that's based on Mark. And the pictures underneath, you see Mark and Leroy testing the VR glasses. Okay, next slide. But we did some other projects in the meantime. And Leroy, you can help me with these questions. One of the projects you did was the Cartet Project. Een van de projecten die jullie hebben gedaan is natuurlijk het Cartet project. I will also translate it to Dutch for Leroy. Wat hebben jullie gedaan voor het Cartet project?
We have assessed the questions from the questionnaire.
Good, yeah, indeed, you did.
And we checked the width, to easy to understand.
Yeah, you checked whether they were easy to understand. Indeed. Did you do something more?
No.
No. Okay. Then I will add things to you to your talk, because you also see the pictures in the questionnaire. There were pictures included in the questionnaire, and you assessed whether these pictures were also easy to understand. You looked at those pictures, and you also gave feedback on whether they correspond to the questions they were. And the last project you did in the meantime was a Digitaal op bezoek, digital visit project. What did you do for the digital visit project?
What did I do for the the digital vision project? I check. I'm also.
Je mag het ook in het Nederlands doen, hè? Dan vertaal ik het voor je. You can do it in Dutch, then I will translate this for you.
Maybe I was trying to English, but
that's
I'm
okay.
also yes. Wait. I replied to the website on this project in the group of another experts by experience, and the website was yet to be launched.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, go on.
you can talk.
No, you were good, Leroy. Thank you for trying in English. Yeah, you in that told us that you assessed the website of the project with a group of other experts by experience, and the website had yet to be launched, so it wasn't done yet. And you gave feedback on several things on that website, wasn't it? For example, the researchers had photos and pictures. And yeah, you gave feedback on what they should use, or a photo or a picture which was more clear to use on the website. So that was the yeah, it was a big thing, but that was a small example of what you did. Okay, then the last slide, I think so.
6 of them.
Yeah, the Manifesto of Inclusive Research, because we also studied it. And we picked one item. And Leroy, which item of the Manifesto of Inclusive Research characterized our way of working together the best?
That was with item 5. It's about equal and partners in cooperation.
Yeah, equal partners in collaboration, huh?
Cooperation, yes.
Yes, indeed. Can you tell the people why, or should I do that?
It's because the co-researchers are feeling like equal partners with when they collaborated with other researchers.
Okay, yeah.
There was Mark, for example, is involved as a co-author on an article, and the co-researcher also participate. I was trying to. Can you help me out?
That's no problem. Yeah, you said that Mark involved as a co-author on one of our articles, yes, and you as co-researchers also participate in the presentations.
Participate. Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
it's a hard word.
Yeah, no problem.
Difficult word. Participated in presentation. Yeah, that's the words I was searching for. In presentation of the conference, but also, for example, in recruitments of into the serious game You and Me.
Yeah, the research. Yeah.
The congresses in which co-researchers and researchers in searches for participated together, for example, and 2 appreciate IASSIDD congresses in both Glasgow and Amsterdam, but also the Congress of Disability Studies.
Studies, indeed. So on congresses, we give the presentations together, for example, on the IASSIDD congresses in Glasgow and Amsterdam, and on the presentation of disability studies. Yeah, thank you. Compliments from me to you, Leroy, because you didn't practice this in English before. So real good job.
I was trying my best. You also.
Yeah, so that was our talk.
Thank you, dear colleagues, and good luck in the future with the development of technology in your research group.
Thanks.
We now have a break, and we now have a break of 10 minutes. And then we welcome the stories of Jan Walmsley and her colleagues. So please stay with us and see you in 10 minutes.
That's at 3:30. Thank you, Sophie.
Over to Danielle.
Hello, I'm Danielle Garrett. I work for Brighton Host Speak Out. We are going to show you part of a film we made of a life stories workshop in the autumn last year. It was my first time, it was the first time we had met in person since the lockdown, and emotions ran high. 6 of us told our stories after Jan had explained how it all fitted into the bigger picture of the history of how people with learning disabilities have been treated. We put when we were born into the timeline, and then we talked about how our lives fitted. We are only showing you a part of it today. If you want, we can share it, the whole film with you as well.
In September, for the first time since the beginning of COVID, a group of us met up in Brighton for a history workshop with Jan. It was great to see each other. It was quite emotional and challenging to talk about our lives in the bigger picture, but we felt it was important. Why is it important to know our history?
Hello, I'm Jan. I was born in 1950, so I come in here. I've studied the history of learning disabilities for a long time. I think people with learning disabilities need to understand that they have a history of being discriminated against. I think that was the very first word you used, one of you. Which I think
Yes.
yes.
Discrimination.
Prejudice, poor information, misinformation, if you like. And I think that learning about the past helps you think, oh, well, yes, that is true. It's not how I feel, and it's not my fault. It's actually been built into the way we treated people with learning disabilities for a long time. There is a long history of distancing ourselves from people with learning disabilities and treating them in a way that is quite appalling. Yeah. I think it's quite nice to know that things have got better, and I think we can't deny they've got better. You might think they're going to get worse again, but they have got better, but that not enough has got better for everybody. So there are still people with, in Winterbourne View, and then we had Causton Hall only this year. 3 people died. Has anybody been put in jail for those 3 people dying?
No,
They have.
nothing.
And there's a long history of that too, that people die and nobody takes any action. So we've got really positive policy, valuing people around. I thought, we're there. I've got no more work to do. We've got there. The promised land is here, but it isn't here because it didn't actually happen. There wasn't the investment, there weren't the teeth in it to make what they said should happen. And now we haven't got policy. So it's hard for you to say, I'm not getting what I ought to get, when there's no policy saying what you should get. So I think that we need to start campaigning.
I'm Danielle. I was born in 1993. I think history is about people with learning disabilities is really important because people can understand what happened, like even before they were born, and how it's come along. So, like, I was born in 1993. I didn't know like the stuff that's happened before. It still needs to improve, like people listening and understanding people with learning disabilities, and how that we might need some help and like things explained in simpler than people think.
I think my learning difficulties have been, I think really it's destroyed my life quite a lot. Yeah.
When were you born, Katie?
65. I think it's destroyed my life. That's how I personally feel. Because, well, I wasn't being shunted around. I wasn't in charitable schools, boarding school, children's home, family placement, you know. The staff were treating me badly in those places. It's the system. Yes, it's all those. I feel institutionalized. Is that the right word? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now that I'm in this lovely flat, it doesn't feel like home at all. So yes, I just feel messed up, very messed up by the system. I find it hard to trust the system. This is very important. It's very important. We don't want history to repeat itself, do we? But I think it will. I'm being terribly pessimistic. I think it will. I think that it's taking so long to close all these institutions.
I'm Matthew Hellett. I don't really want to tell you my date of birth. This feels nice looking back, because then you can know how far you come in some type of respects. Because I remember, I mean, those were good times, but then they were also hard times, because like then I was only 24, and that's when my mental health showed itself. That's when it was really rubbish. And I'd like people with learning disabilities, even though times are more harsh now, I'd like people to have more choices, like to deal with the world of health and work, and to do with where they live.
Hello, I'm Michael Harris, and I was born in 1970.
Why do you think it's important to understand about the history of people with learning disabilities, Michael?
They have a right to be heard.
So Jan, can you?
Hello. Yes, I was saying we've probably had enough film. I was only meaning to show you 3 minutes, but we can show you the rest if you would like to. And now introducing Sue and Paul.
In September for the first.
No, one.
Can you see the slides, Jan?
Yes, it's not me though, it's Sue Ledger we want. Sue Ledger and Paul Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Ledger, maybe? They are here, I've seen them.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Great, there's a problem with the unmute. That's great. Can you make me co-host, Jan, and I'll try and share the slides. My colleague is going to be presenting on the work he's been leading on Black Lives Matter.
I think you can share the slides. I don't know how to get Paul on the picture.
Okay, I'm going to try and share the slides. If that doesn't work, can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Can people see the slides? Great.
Yes, we can.
Paul, are you? I know Paul was in the room earlier.
He was. There he is, Paul Anthony. He's there.
And I wonder if Paul is muted.
I've just tried to unmute him.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. Hey, so Paul, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. This article is called "Belonging in History, Belonging in Activism, and Exploring the Lives and Experiences of Black People with Learning Difficulties." My name is Paul Christian. I'm a Black British man who was born in the UK, London. I have lived with the label of learning disability since I was a child. I am proud of my Jamaican heritage. I am an actor with a learning disability who goes to a theatre company called Access All Areas. In May 2020, George Floyd was killed by a policeman in America. This made me very sad about what is happening in the UK to Black people across the world. I wanted to help to end racism. I wanted to do some research that would help and support Black people to be heard and to take part. I wanted to help the Black Lives Matter movement. I wanted to make sure that Black people with learning disabilities are part of history. This meant including in past history projects and in projects that are happening now. What I have to say here will take around about 5 minutes. Before I start, we would like to ask for your help and ideas on our work. As you listen, I want you to have a think about these two questions. Do you think this research can help the lives of Black people to be included in the histories of learning disability? And how can we make links with more inclusive researchers who want to support Black Lives Matter and to end health racism? Looking back over the last 50 years, not much is really written about the lives and experiences of Black people with learning disabilities like me. This is a big major gap in the UK history of learning disability and in British history. This presentation talks about my work to try and change that. I am doing this with Sue, is my co-researcher and co-writer. We have met 8 years ago when I was an actor in a film about the life of a woman with learning disabilities called Maple Cooper. Sue's daughter, Ruby, was also in the film too. Sue and I both was inspired by Maple's story. We stayed in touch and started to do some research and write together. Madhouse was a project that shared the history of learning disability institutions in the UK. We did this through theatre and a music video and a museum exhibition. Sue and I worked together on this project. Madhouse was presented the lives, story of activists like Maple Cooper and Harvey Waterman who lived in the institution for many years. This gave me the idea for the research I am doing now. Through my house, I was shocked to learn that in the park, thousands of people with learning disabilities were sent away from their homes to live in institutions. Learning about the life of Maple Cooper made me curious about the experiences of Black British people who were admitted to institutions. I couldn't find any stories about Black people who lived in the old institutions. I wanted to hear their stories, how they were treated, were they treated differently from white people, more harshly? Did any Black people become activists like Maple? In 2021, I started work with Sue to find these missing Black stories from the institution. We have now found information about 30 people described as being from African, Caribbean, or South Asian heritage. All of these Black people lived in the old institutions. Our next step is to do a pilot research project. We will interview some of the people who got in touch with us. We have been given money to do the next bit of our research. Today, I have talked about my research, trying to find out more about this life of Black people with learning difficulties who lived in, who were admitted to institutions. I am also working with the George Padmore Institutions, a Black History Archive in London, to make the collection more accessible to people with learning difficulties. Linking with Genuine Black Lives Matter group, a group of people with learning difficulties who are exploring Black history and working to stop racism. Working with Sue to write and to make links with other inclusive researchers who want to support Black Lives Matter. We have written an article about our work for the British Journal of Learning Difficulties. We also really welcome others to join us, and that also means you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Brilliant. Okay.
I'll stop that share, Jan, and pass it back to you, shall I?
Thank you. Yeah. And finally, last but not least, we're going to hear again from Nikola and Craig about surviving through story.
Have you, I'm unmuted.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Oh, right.
I can hear you.
If you let me share the screen, I've actually put it into, to save time, I've just done a very quick presentation, which will help.
I think you can share the screen.
Okay. Okay, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Lovely. Okay, so Surviving Through Story, this is the website. I'll put it in the chat. And I'm just going to play a tiny film that Craig, the idea came from Craig and myself quite separately at the beginning of the lockdown. So this is what we said yesterday. Right, so hello everyone. I'd like to introduce Craig Hart, who is the co-chair of the Social History of Learning Disability group. and we're making this video to talk about the Surviving Through Story project. So Craig, can we remember together how we started the project, you and I?
Yeah, it was my idea before it, and we was been talking to it in a meeting or in a phone call session, and is trying to work out how we find the stories from people.
Yes, because you said I had the idea that there was nowhere for people to share their experiences, people with learning disabilities.
And I had idea, or I was thought idea how we do it. So I said, how we do like set up meetings and planning groups and that, and see what the other people thought.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to stop that film there because I know we're very short of time. What Craig had been really concerned about was not least finding out how people had responded to bereavement and loss. And he had a lot of concerns. So basically we got together a fantastic advisory group. The project is now led by the Rick Centre, and we are still collecting stories. We're particularly interested to hear the stories of people with more profound and complex needs and those living in residential services. We've got, I think, around 130 stories on the site now, and I think it's around 97 or 98% come from self-advocates, people with learning disabilities themselves, rather than from carers and supporters. So we do feel it's been very successful, and we are looking at Brighton and Hove Speak Up, got a project where they are collecting COVID stories, and those will be on the site, and they are now part of our advisory group. And that's where I will stop. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to share this work. I will just put the website into the chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikola, Susan, Paul, Jan, and colleagues for your contributions, for your shared experiences, and for your wisdom. We receive a lot of emails at the moment of people who want to connect, people who have questions, and we want to suggest to regroup for future discussion at a follow-up roundtable, because we do not wish to go over time, because we promised to stop at 5 or at in a few minutes. Is that okay for you? Yeah. So please write down all your questions, all the teams that came up, and we promise you to reschedule a new coming together online, and but for discussion. And then now I want to give the last word to my colleagues. But first of all, I want to thank the steering group for all your amazing work in free time, private space. Thank you for the after work hours, managing our SIRG and preparing this event. And then now I pass the word to the co-chairs, Fion and Amanda. Please take over the microphone and give us some IASSIDD news and updates and close the webinar, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you also to everybody who's made such fantastic contributions to today's discussion. It is unfortunate that we've run out of time to have our group discussion, but because we feel it is really important to give that discussion space and time, I support the suggestion for us to come back together in a second discussion where we focus on sharing each other's ideas. So I'm going to try and share my screen.
Oh, I can also share if you want. It's okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So just some very quick announcements from me to say that there is a call for abstracts for a special issue on disabilities in the journal Jared. Those are due tomorrow, so there's not a huge amount of time, but this, I'm sure, will not be the last of these opportunities. I'll also send this information straight after this meeting so that you all have it. There's also a call for abstracts due on the 15th of April for the IASSIDD virtual conference series, and those can be either live or pre-recorded. And there is a special issue which several members of this meeting have already prepared papers for, and that is the special issue called Inclusive Research: Is the Road More or Less Well Travelled? We plan to host a webinar later in the year, but I'll ask Fionn and Jonathan just to say a little bit more about that before I go on to the last point.
So Patricia has agreed to be the host of that.
Yes.
So who's that? Patricia?
Patricia O'Brien.
Patricia O'Brien, who runs the Inclusive Research Network in Australia.
Yeah.
And was the editor, or is the editor of the special issue, has offered to work on that with us, and we haven't a date yet, and we don't know which of the authors will be presenting, but it's going to be really good. And that's about all we have to say about that now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fionn and Jonathan. And then the final point from me is just to extend the invitation to each of you and to your colleagues to join our steering group. We are a very small group of people, and we would love to have your involvement and support to make sure that we're able to drive forward the agenda on this important topic. We especially welcome the involvement of people with living experience of intellectual and developmental disabilities and their supporters. So we'll share more information about all of this with you after today's event so that you can get in contact with us if you'd like to take part.
Okay, thank you. I think it's we're right on time to close this session. I want to thank you all for being present, for your time, for your attention, for your very inspiring stories. And we will send the invitation very soon for the next event. We will make sure to create some time, a lot of time for
Sophie, we can hear you again, I think.
Oh, I was unmuted again. Oh, thank you for that, for saying. I was saying thank you very much for your contributions, for all the inspiring stories, and I'm looking forward for the next meeting to actually go in discussion and dialogue with each other. So please take care of yourself and have a very nice day. Thank you for being here. Bye. And welcome to our steering group. If people want to say, yes, I'm joining your group now, it's fantastic. If you say it tomorrow, it's also fantastic. Next week, next month, but know that we are a very active group and we need some support of you. Bye.